Hello, everyone, and welcome to day 4 of APH's Virtual Excel Camp. Let's give everyone a moment to get settled and comfortable and ready to learn. As you all are getting your setup situated, I'd like to remind everyone, if you could, to go to your chat and set it to all panelists and attendees or everyone. That way, all of us are included in any of the correspondence that go on throughout the class. My name is Jeff Schwartz, and I'm with APH Outreach Services. We are very excited to have you all with us today. This week, our theme is Oreo and Abacii Camp for ages 5 through 8. This is our target audience. However, anyone is welcome to join in on the learning and enjoy. At this time, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to our teachers for this week. Miss Amy and Miss Nina, take it away.
Hello, welcome everyone. This is Miss Amy speaking. Glad to be here.
Hi, everybody. This is Miss Nina. Glad to be here too. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. There we go, so that we can give a shout out.
Shout out. That's what we do at school sometimes. We'll echo for that. Our shout out for today is for Luke for completing his extension activity and sharing it on Flip yesterday. He did an amazing job making his eye models, and they are shown on the screen right now. He used his Oreos, he cut them in half, opened them up so the white part is exposed. The white is his sclera. Then he used a top piece of his Oreo for his eyelids. He's got sunflower seeds, I believe, as his eyelashes. He used a green pickle in the middle of his sclera to be his iris. And in the center of that, his pupil is represented by a raisin. He used 2 veggie straws to represent his 2 eyebrows. So we were super impressed and excited when we saw his flip grid come to our flip space.
Awesome.
If you haven't had a chance at this point to do any of our flip activities, there is a link in our extension activities that you can go on and share as well. We would encourage you to even go back to day 1 or 2, day 3, and now we're on day 4, so that you can put them in. We'll be looking at them all week. So even if you put in a day 1 flip, we'll get a notification and we'll get in there and see the cool things you're doing out there at home. So we're encouraging you to do that. We'd love to see what you're doing.
Yep, awesome. Thank you, Luke. All right, I'm going to do the fun Oreo fact of the day. This is called a big stuff Oreo. There's a picture here. It must be an old advertisement that shows 3 different Oreos. The regular Oreo, a double stuffed Oreo, and then something that they called the Oreo Big Stuff. In 1984, Oreo came out with an Oreo cookie that was about overall 10 times bigger than a regular Oreo. It was bigger and it was thicker. They were discontinued in 1991. I think they didn't last that long at the stores. They were sold in a big box with 10 cookies inside, and each of those big Oreos was wrapped in its own package. So you could take out just one and pack it to go. The cookies were about 3 inches in diameter. So you can kind of make that with your hands about how big that cookie would be. Whoa, be pretty big. That'd be your whole dessert, just one cookie. You could probably even share it with somebody. They were bigger and they were thicker, and they were sold in stores from 1984 to 1991. I don't think I ever tried one. I missed my chance. All right, that's pretty neat. I can't imagine an Oreo cookie that big. All right, guys. Now we're going to jump ahead to our chat box check, our question of the day. This question says or asks, how many members are in your family? You can go ahead and count your pets. Yesterday, I always include my dog. And you're going to type that number right into the chat box. So I'm going to type a 5 because I've got me and my husband and 2 children and 1 dog. got 5. Oh, I see an 8, a 7, a 4, a 2, all different sized families. Awesome. 8. Great. So you guys are going to type that into the chat, and then I'm going to ask you guys to go ahead and grab your abacus, because it's almost abacus time with Miss Amy anyway. But go ahead and grab your abacus, and you can either count up to that number you just typed, or you can just set that number. Go ahead and do that as a warm-up. I'm going to get mine out. Oh, I've got a set of 5. Oh, I know how to do that. Do that right now. Here's my 5 beads for the separation bar. Great job. All right. Okay, so everyone is entering their number into the chat and then trying to count up to that number on your abacus, or just setting that number. So in just a moment, we should all have our Abacii out and in front of us. It's perfect, because we are going to get ready for Abacus time with Miss Amy. Great, I see lots of friends entering into the chat. Awesome job, guys. Here we go. We should have our abacus out and ready for Abacus time.
All right. That means we got to get our abacus chant going.
Okay.
Guys, ready? We'll go right through it today since we've been practicing it now for this will be our 4th day. So I'm going to get our beat going and we will chant together. A-B-A-C-U-S. I'm gonna rock my abacus.
A-B-A-C-U-S. I'm gonna rock my abacus.
A-B-A-C-U-S. I'm gonna count on my abacus.
A-B-A-C-U-S. I'm gonna count on my abacus.
A-B-A-C-U-S. I'm gonna learn my abacus.
A-B-A-C-U-S. I'm gonna learn my abacus. Woo!
All right. Hopefully that's gotten us in the mood to work some abacus skills.
I'm gonna stop my share so we can go to that close-up cam. There it is.
All right. Here we are. Oh, and look at on my abacus right now, I have a 1 bead set in the ones column and a 5 bead set in the ones column. They're set touching the separation bar, and that makes a 6. So I put 6 on my abacus to show everybody how many people are in my family, including dogs. Okay, I'm going to clear. And if your abacus is not clear, I'm going to ask you to go ahead and do an all clear for yourself. All clear means there are no beads touching your separation bar all the way across your abacus. All right, so yesterday we learned to count to 10. And today we're going to double that amount. We're going to get all the way to 20. But before we do that, we're going to review counting to 10. So let's count together. We'll go through quickly, and then we'll talk about what it looks like to start moving up towards 20. Here we go. I've got my index finger on my top 1 bead, and I'm ready to count in my ones column, starting with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Slide my finger all the way down to clear all the 1 beads. 6, 7, 8, 9. Now I'm going to take my 2 fingers, my thumb and my pointer finger, and I'm going to clear my ones column because I need to add a 1 to my tens column. My ones column was full. It had 9 and I couldn't add a 1. So I had to go over to my tens column, 1 column to the left of my ones column, and add my 10 bead to get 1 more. Now I have a 1 in my tens column and a 0 set in my ones column, and that reads as 10. Okay. think we're pretty clear up to there. We did a check yesterday and everybody was following along very well. So let's think about adding on. I have 10 set on my abacus right now. In my tens column again, just in case you didn't hear, I have one bead set. One bead is touching the separation bar in my tens column. Think about it. What do you think we're going to do to move on to add one more to my abacus? We have options. We have a lot of rods on this abacus. We've been focusing on two different rods, two different columns, the ones column and the tens. All right. If you thought adding a one bead to your ones column was correct, then you indeed were correct. So I just added from my ones column a one bead. Now, when I look at my abacus, I have a one bead set in my tens column. That's 110. And a one bead set in my ones column. And that is a 1, 1. Because everything has a value of 1 in my ones column. Thinking about your tens column, everything has a value of 10 in your tens column. So we have 110, which equals 10. 10 plus a 1 is 11. So now we have 11. All right, let's keep counting up. But before we do, let's think about it again. Where are we going to move our next bead to add one more to 11 as we count up? If you thought about adding another 1 in your ones column, you were correct. We're going to leave our tens column alone right now because we're not adding by tens, we're adding by ones. So we're going to leave our 1 in our tens column. We have a 1 set in our ones column right now. And now we're going to slide our next bead from our ones in our ones column. So that makes 12. So now I have 2 ones beads in the ones column touching the separation bar. So now from here, we've already learned how to count to 10. So we're going to just keep counting in our ones column and leave our tens column alone. Right now I have 12 set, and let's just keep counting up and you'll see how it goes. 13. Now I have 3 in my ones column. 14. Now I have 4 in my ones column set touching my separation bar. Just like when we're counting to 10, I'm going to go up to the top, put my finger on my 5 bead. I'm trying to get to 15 now. I'm going to swipe my 15 bead down and clear the rest of the ones on the bottom. So now I have 15. I have my 1 bead set in my tens column and my 5 bead set in my ones column. All right, keep coming down from the bottom on your ones column. 16, 17, 18, 19. So now I have a full column in my ones column. I have 9 beads set, but to get to 20, I need to add 1 more. I can't add it in my ones column. So guess what I need to do? I need to get my pincher fingers out and I'm going to clear my ones column of the 9 beads I have, and I'm going to switch out to my tens column and add my second bead. Now I have 2 beads in my tens column, and that makes 20. 2 tens, 0 ones. So if we count by tens, that's 10, 20. Hopefully that's making sense. Could you in the chat let me know why for yes, this is making sense, or N for no, this is not making sense? And I'll wait and see if I get some responses. Okay, I'm getting yeses. Don't worry if no, and I am getting some no's. So we are going to count several times to 20. It was a big jump. So we'll keep practicing. But the good thing is this is recorded. So even if you don't catch on today, you can go back and look at your recording and go through it again and again, as many times as you need to get it down. Okay, so let's go ahead and clear. We're clearing our abacus and we're going to practice again. The more practice we do together, the better we're going to be. All right, let's start with counting to 10. We're going to just go straight through with 10 because everybody did really well with that yesterday. Here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, slide it down. 6, 7, 8, 9. Pinch your grasp out. Clear it. 10. So now I have 10. 110 in my tens column, touching the separation bar, and 0 ones. Because the number 10, we write it 1, 0. Our 1 is in the tens place and our 0 is in the ones place. So we have 110 and 0 ones. All right. This is where we're learning today. So now we're shifting back to our ones column to go from 10 to 11. Because to go from 10 to 11, we're only increasing by 1. So we're going to go ahead and set our 1 in our ones column. And let's go ahead and count again, just using our ones column. So we have 11 right now. When we have 11 and we go up by 1, we have 12. So now I'm showing 12 on my abacus. 1 10 bead and 2 1 beads in my ones column. And I'm just going to keep going at this point. 13, 14, 15, slide it down. Now I've got 15 set on my abacus. The number 15 is a 1 and a 5. The 1 is in the tens column. So I have a 1 set in my tens column, touching my separation bar. And I have my 5 beads set in my ones column, touching my separation bar. 15. Let's go to 16 and add another 1. 16, 17, 18, 19. Now we're going to clear because we have no more ones in our ones column. We have to add a 1 in our next door column to the left, which is our tens. But before we do that, we need to clear our 9s. Squish. We'll push them away from the separation bar, come over to our tens column, slide our 10 bead or our 1 bead up. I'm sorry. Now we have 2 10s in our 10 column, or 2 1s in our tens column. I'm sorry, I'm misspeaking a lot. I have 2 1 beads set in my tens column and no 1 beads or 5 beads set, no beads at all set in my ones column. So 0 in my ones column, 2 in my tens column. So that makes 20. Hopefully going through it one more time, we'll get it in our brain. This time I'm going to count going all the way through, and then I'm going to give you a chance to do it on your own and let me know how you did. So let's do it one more time together. I'm not going to do much speaking this time. So we're starting with a clear. So clear all. Now we're going to our ones column once our abacus is clear, and we're going to start counting from 1 and stop at 20. Let's go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Squish. 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, squish, and 20. Okay. Now I have 20 set on my abacus. One more time. I have one bead set in my tens column and no bead set in my ones column. This time, I'm going to give you a second to do it on your own. I will count with you. And then when we are finished, I will ask you to put in the chat box whether or not you were able to do it. All right, here we go. Clear your abacus, please. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, and 20. All right, really quickly in the chat. Yes, if you did it. No, if you still need some time to practice on your own.
Good.
Yay.
Seeing lots of yeses.
Excellent. Oh, yay.
Oh, yay.
Great. I got
A
it.
whole row of yeses. Awesome.
Yes, yes, yes,
Super
yes,
yes.
yes. Awesome. So happy that everybody is following along.
Yes.
All right.
All right, I'm going to share my screen because we have a quick game to play still with the abacus. I'm going to reshare my screen and share this. You guys are doing awesome counting to 20. All right. So you guys are going to be telling Miss Amy and I what number is set on the abacus. I'm going to go to the next slide. Here we go.
Okay. On the top of my screen, it says, what number is set on the abacus? And then it shows me a picture of the abacus on the left with a number set. And on the right of that, it says the abacus to the left, on the abacus to the left, there is a 1 bead and a 5 bead touching the separation bar in the ones column. What number is set?
Go ahead and type that in the chat. I see some friends already are. Great, yes. Let me give everyone else a moment to think before I say it out loud from the chat. Awesome job, guys. Everyone so far has said 6, and you are correct.
Yep.
Great job,
Very
guys.
good.
Okay, we've got another one. If you set yours to match Miss Amy's, go ahead and clear it so you can get ready for the next one. Here we go.
Okay. What number is set on the abacus? On the abacus to the left, there is a 1 bead in the ones column touching the separation bar, and a 1 bead in the tens column touching the separation bar. What number is set? And your abacus picture is on the left-hand side. Okay, seeing responses already coming in. You guys are
Wow, great.
so far, everybody's got it.
Yeah, you guys are awesome.
If you are saying 11, you are correct. This is an 11. We have 11 set on the abacus.
All right, last one, a big challenge. Ready? Clear your abacus if you've set it along with Miss Amy's, and get ready for our last one.
Okay. What number is set on the abacus? On the abacus shown to the left of my screen, there are 2 1 beads set in the tens column and no beads set in the ones column.
Oh, I see some quick answers, you guys. Great job. Let me give everyone else a chance to answer. Great. Everyone so far is saying 20, and you are correct.
20 is correct.
Yeah. You guys
Excellent.
are getting so good at counting with your abacus. You guys can go ahead and challenge yourselves tonight and practice counting as high as you can. All right, guys, great job. We can set our abacus aside for now. because we're going to be getting ready for our Oreo investigation of the day. All right, so our abacus is going to be put aside so we won't spill anything on it because we're going to be using some water or milk today. We'll make sure I put that in a safe place. Today, for our Oreo investigation, we're going to be doing a cookie sink or float experiment. By the end of our activity today, we will be able to give real world examples of things that sink and things that float. We will be able to make predictions about which of our cookies are going to sink or float. And we are going to be recording our observations. First thing we're going to do is think about things that we know of that float. We can think about if we've taken a bath and we've put things in the bath water with us, or if we've gone to the pool. What are some things, you guys can type it right into the chat. What are some things that you know float? Put it in the water, it would float. Oh, a boat and a ship. Yes, I have seen those in the water. They float, and those are big. Great. A pool noodle, an empty bottle, and I like how you put that detail. An empty bottle can float. A rubber ducky. Great. Floaties, yes, definitely. Thank goodness. Great, you guys are typing, keep typing in some ideas, and Miss Amy and I have thought of some ideas as well that we're going to be showing you some pictures of. Sticks float, piece of paper would float, yep. These are great ideas. You guys can keep typing in some ideas, and I'm going to start showing you some of the pictures that Miss Amy and I put in here. A plastic spoon, it will float. A leaf, just like the stick, it will float. A basketball will float. I've got a picture of a basketball that just came up. Oh, now I've got a picture of some foam bath toys. They'll float in your bathtub. An orange should float. And there's that picture of the empty water bottle that someone has suggested that will float. Great, someone typed in a ball, yeah. Especially a ball filled with air, that will float. And then we saw that suggestion on here. I put a picture of a big cruise ship. Way bigger than the rest of these things, but it will float also. Things like ice cubes, sticks, foam bath toys, leaves, and oranges float on water because they're less dense than the water. Hollow objects like balloons and balls filled with air, an empty water bottle or container, even an empty glass bottle will also float because they're filled with air, which is less dense than water. Though big ships and boats are made of heavy, highly dense metals, they've got a big base on the bottom, which helps them to float, okay? All right, let's go to our next one. And we're gonna start thinking about what do we know of that will sink if you put it in the water. You guys can type your ideas into the chat and we'll start pulling up some pictures in just a moment.
See a can?
If I take a soup can filled with soup and toss it into a big pot of water, it would sink to the bottom. A rock will sink to the bottom, yeah?
Titanic.
Yes, a boat with a hole in it, filled with water and might sink to the bottom, yes. Can you guys think of anything else that might sink if you tossed it in water? I'll start pulling up some pictures of things. A bowling ball, not filled with air like that basketball. A bowling ball can be really heavy. It would sink right to the bottom, kind of like a rock. Your bike would sink if you tossed it in, a metal spoon, a light bulb with a question mark. We'd have to think about that. Maybe you'd have to, well, I don't know if you could investigate that, but could look into that. Legos, a big boulder. I've got a picture of a big boulder there or a rock. Great. Let's see what else. I've got a picture of a coin. Coins will sink to the bottom. I have a picture of a phone. If your phone falls in water, it will sink to the bottom.
Yes, it will.
And a potato. Potato is really heavy and dense. It will sink to the bottom. So some examples of some basic things that could sink in water are rocks, coins, marbles, and most other objects made of metal, like paper clips and your car keys. Any packed solid material or something that is not hollow will likely sink in water. A bar of soap, a full bottle of shampoo, lots of other things like that. The reason that some things float and some things sink is because of a word called density. Everything around us is made up of molecules, and the more tightly packed those molecules are, the more dense that item is, and the more likely it is to sink. When an object has very loosely packed molecules, the less dense it will be. If an item is more dense than the water or liquid you put it in, it's going to sink. But if it's less dense than the water or liquid you put it in, it's going to float. When something can float, we say it's buoyant. We are going to watch a video. Oh, here it is. We're going to watch a video that explains this a little bit more. And once I press play, you just need to give me a moment to get the captions going. So bear with me.
Kids want to know.
I'm going to close this. Here we go. Captions on. Play.
Have you ever taken a bath or played in a swimming pool, lake, or ocean? Maybe you've noticed that there are some things that make really good bath or pool toys, and other things, well, not so much. The term buoyancy refers to how well something floats or sinks. If something is able to float, we would say that it's buoyant. So, what makes something float or sink? Generally, we can determine if something can float by feeling its weight. Usually, if something is light, it floats or is positively buoyant. If it's heavy, then it sinks or is negatively buoyant. This is an easy enough explanation for us to accept, right? But the idea becomes shaky when we consider why something really, really heavy, like a cruise ship, is able to float. To understand this, we need to understand the concept of density. Density is the amount of stuff or mass something has inside of it, compared to its volume or size. For example, if we look at this bucket full of sand, we would say that it's more dense than this identical empty bucket, because the bucket full of sand has more stuff. It's got more mass. Another example is this bowling ball. It has more mass than a basketball because a basketball is full of air, but a bowling ball is full of stuff. So even though the bowling ball is smaller, it's more dense than the basketball.
Okay, there's one more part to that video.
Kids want to know.
Let me get to it.
Have you ever
Here we go. One more part to the video. It
if
continues.
an object is heavier than the amount of water that it's displaced, or is something very dense, the object will sink, like the bowling ball. And if the object is lighter than the amount of water it is displaced, or something not very dense, the object will float, like the basketball. So, back to our cruise ship problem. Even though a cruise ship is very heavy, it's also very, very large. Most of the ship is also hollow, so it's not as dense as you might think. Because of this, just like the basketball, the ship is actually lighter than the water it's displaced, causing it to float.
Hi.
If an object is heavier than the amount of
Okay, so today we're going to be doing an investigation using cookies and treats from our pantry and making some predictions about whether we think that cookie or treat will sink right away or if it will float. Okay, so we're going to be gathering our materials in just a moment. Today, you will need either a container of water or milk. If you really want to use milk, you can, but I don't think I'm going to be eating any of my treats after because they might be getting mushy if I leave them in there a while. So I chose to just use water. And then you're going to gather 4 different cookies or crackers or things from your pantry. So we have some examples here. If you've got any sugar wafers or vanilla wafers, chocolate chip cookies, jam-filled cookies, sugar cookies, you're going to go grab an Oreo and then 3 other cookies or crackers. All right, so we'll give everyone a moment to go grab your things and then give us a thumbs up when you're back and ready. When you get your container of water, we want to make sure we're putting it far away from our computers just in case it gets bumped over. So I may put my stuff on the floor just in case. Okay, see a thumbs up. You've gotten your stuff. Great. I'm going to go grab my thing. We'll wait for some more thumbs up. Good. I see another yes, you've got it. You've got your container of water in a safe place where it won't ruin anything in case it's bumped over. Good. I see another thumbs up. Let's just do maybe 30 more seconds. Everyone can grab their things. So we might all have different cookies to be investigating at home, and that's okay. We can share our results with each other. The only thing we might all have is our Oreos. Hopefully everyone's got an Oreo because we can do that one together to start. Good, I'm seeing more and more thumbs up. Okay. All right, we have a short video to play to show you an example when I tried this investigation. Here we go. If you're still gathering your things, that's fine. Hopefully you can listen along. See if I can get this to be full
Okay,
screen.
friends, we're getting ready to conduct our investigation on what things sink and what things float. I've got my container of water, and I've got my 4 cookies and treats. An Oreo, a chocolate chip cookie with chocolate chips, and I've got this blueberry-filled Fig Newton cookie bar, and a caramel and nut treat. The first thing I'm going to do is pick the one I want to put in first, and I'm going to choose my blueberry bar. I'm going to draw a picture of it on my note paper so I can remember which one I'm doing. I don't want to forget. So it's my rectangular kind of blueberry filled bar. I'm going to make a prediction. This is pretty heavy compared to my other cookies. It's got that really dense blueberry jam inside. I think this might sink. I will write my prediction here. Now I'm going to put it in my bucket and find out what really happens. Oh, it floated on top just for 1 second. Bunch of bubbles came out and it went all the way down to the bottom really fast. That sunk really fast and it got mushy really fast. It's already falling apart. I'm gonna come over here and draw my observations. It went right down to the bottom and some bubbles came up.
All right. Hold on, let me get
Okay.
this slide. Okay, so we are going to be conducting this investigation at home with the cookies and treats that you guys chose, and Miss Amy's got it set up as well. So we're going to go back and forth between my screen share, where I've got a page to record our observations that you guys share with us, and Miss Amy's observations. And then we're going to also flip to Miss Amy's close-up cam sometimes, because she's going to be doing this experiment along with us. So we're going to start off together doing the same cookies. So hopefully everyone's got their Oreo. I am going to get my Oreo ready. I've got my cookie right here in my observation notes. I didn't draw it, I just put a picture right in there. At home, if you'd like to get a scrap paper out, you can draw your Oreo. It's a round cookie. And let's make a prediction about the Oreo. Go ahead and type it into the chat, guys. When we put this Oreo in our containers of water or milk, do you think it's going to sink right away, or do you think it's going to float? I want to see some predictions in the chat, and then I will mark it here if we can. We'll mark everyone's predictions, okay? So far I see 2 people are predicting that it's just going to go in and sink. Oh, someone else thinks it might go in and float. We've got some different predictions, and that's totally fine. Your prediction is your best guess as to what you think will happen and why. It's okay if we have different predictions. We're also going to have different reasons for making those predictions. Okay, I see a mix of predictions. Some people think it will sink right away, and some people think it's going to float for a bit. What I'm going to have to do, actually, in order to mark it, I have to stop showing it in full screen so that I'm able to mark it a little bit. All right, so it looks like more people are predicting it will sink. So I'm just going to go ahead and circle the sink on our worksheet, but it's totally fine if you're predicting it will float. I need to make this so it's transparent. There we go. All right, we're going to flip to Miss Amy's camera so that we can see what actually happens. I will stop my share. We've marked our prediction. We all have our own predictions. All right, there's Miss Amy's Oreo.
And I have water down
Okay.
here in my container. You may not be able to see my container because it's glass and it's on a white background, but I have my Oreo in my hands. And, you know, if I was having trouble being able to tell whether or not my Oreo was sinking or floating, I could probably lightly touch it, keep my fingers near it in the water. That might help too, but I'm going to let it go.
You guys can let yours go at home as well. Oh, Miss Amy, what's happening there?
Oh, it's going kind of fast. It is floating around. Oh,
Oh,
let me see if I can move my tray a little under my camera. So right now it's up against the side of my container. And I would say that half of it is underwater. If you can see my finger, it's in the water now. And then half of it is on top of the water. And it looks like slowly my floating portion might be, I'm not sure.
Trying
Might
to
be
sink.
still, it's
Oh, I
still,
see some
it's
air bubbles
partially
coming
floating.
up. All
Partially
right, so we'll
floating.
have to draw our observations there.
I'm gonna put it in the center of my bowl again, but yeah, it looks like part of my Oreo is still, it's tilted upward, just say that. It hasn't sunk completely yet.
If you guys are doing it at home, go ahead and tell us about your Oreo. Is your Oreo still floating completely? Did it sink part way like Miss Amy's? Did it sink completely already? And maybe you're using a deep bucket of water and it's able to sink down a little deeper. Okay, someone did it at home and theirs sunk. Ours floated and then sank down to the bottom, but someone else's cookie is still floating.
Floated and sank. Okay,
I
yeah.
wonder if it makes a difference, Miss Amy, if we're using like a double stuffed Oreo or like a thin Oreo. I mean, Oreo sells so many different kinds. Maybe they do something a little bit different depending on how much filling they have.
Yeah. Well,
Right.
it could have something that could affect the density. That was a word we learned today. How much stuff is inside of something. So, you know, a recipe could be different for different kinds of Oreos. And maybe in one recipe, something in the recipe is heavier than another.
So I'm going to share my screen again, and I'm going to draw Miss Amy's since that's the one that I'm watching. And if you guys are writing down your notes at home.
It's down now. Miss Amy
it's down
finally sunk to the bottom. It is down in the bottom of my container.
Okay, so
Feel
Miss
it on my
Amy
fingers.
kind of floated for like a minute
It
before
did.
it sunk. I'm just going to kind of draw, like, for a while, yours was like almost like up and down, Miss Amy.
Yeah.
I'm gonna draw it like that. Yours was floating on top. It kind of went sideways and it made its way down to the bottom. So I might put a little note over here that my cookie floated on its side for a minute and then sunk, so I can remember. It didn't sink completely right away for us. It floated kind of halfway for a minute and then it sunk. All right. So those are my notes to help me remember what happened, and I drew it in there.
I'm gonna
You
get
guys
my
have
soggy
different
cookie
notes at your house, if your Oreo sunk faster or if it maybe hasn't sunk yet. I don't know. All right. Now you guys, I don't know what kind of cookies you have at home to test this out with, but go ahead and pick your next cookie and do this experiment again. Draw the kind of cookie you have, make a prediction, whether you think it will sink or float, especially now having done the Oreo, you might have some information. to help you make it a prediction for your next cookie. And then go ahead and put it in the water. And what we'd like you to do is type in the chat the type of cookie or dessert you have, and then let us know if it's sunk or if it floated. All right. And I can draw some of those in, but I'm going to stop my share again because I know Miss Amy's got another treat over there.
I sure do.
Right. So if you have the different treat, you guys can do your treat. But in case you're just watching Miss Amy, she's going to do one more.
So I wonder, I have the same kind, it's the same brand of cookie, and it is an Oreo, but this Oreo is a vanilla Oreo. And we were just talking about different formulas to make something. I think that the recipe for the vanilla is possibly different than the recipe for the chocolate. Maybe they have the same filling, but maybe the cookie itself is different. I know that at least in the chocolate, there's got to be some sort of chocolate or cocoa powder added to make it chocolatey flavoring. So I wonder if this would be a fun one to try out. And I have two others that we can, if I go quickly, we have time. But so we'll put the vanilla Oreo in the water in front of my cam, and let's just see what happens.
So far it's floating around, moving around just like that first Oreo. We'll see if something different happens. While we're watching and waiting, I'm going to go ahead over to the chat. And I see someone has something, a graham cracker sunk.
Oh.
A Ritz cracker floated, and a Triscuit sunk. Ooh, good idea to try a Triscuit. I've got that in my
Very
pocket.
good.
I'll try it later. Miss Amy, this one has not tilted to its side and started to sink yet.
It has not, but I am starting to see some air bubbles, and I am starting to feel like the water on top of the cookie is starting to increase over the top of it. So I wasn't able to see water on the edges of my cookie initially, and now I do.
Oh, the water.
I'm wondering, but this one is definitely floating.
More than the chocolate Oreo.
Way more, because that chocolate Oreo, at least half of that other Oreo went down, kind of like the Titanic somebody brought up, right? Maybe that side of the Oreo ended up getting waterlogged more quickly, taking on water. And the other side stayed drier, but it is still floating.
Wow, this is floating longer than the chocolate one. Great job. Everyone else in the chat, if you've done another one, go ahead and type it in because I'm going to pick a couple to draw and to put into our observation. Oh, there it went.
All the way down at once. So Miss Amy's Oreo just went all the way down to the bottom of the bucket. Oh my goodness. And I will tell you that this Oreo is definitely soggier feeling than the last Oreo when I got it out. So the chocolate held together a little bit better. This one actually fell apart. I've got to go in there and feel with my fingers and get the rest of that cookie out of there.
All right, Erin put a lot there for us. The goldfish floated. The yogurt melt floated. The Oreo sank. The mini wheat sank. A honeycomb floated. And an arrowroot biscuit sank. All right, someone else did a graham cracker and a Cheez-It, and they floated around, and their Triscuit also sank. An ancient green cracker floated. Awesome, guys. You guys are doing a great job. All right, so I will go to our share screen, and I'll just draw one of these. Miss Amy, if you want to go back in the chat and pick me one that you think I can draw.
Sure enough. Okay, let's see.
Maybe one that floated and one that sunk.
Just a Ritz cracker, maybe? It's a circular cracker.
Okay, I'm going to draw a Ritz cracker. Oops, so I'm going to be drawing a circle.
And then maybe just fill it with yellow. Usually they're about yellowy. Yeah. Oh, that's a nice color.
Okay, so I've got a Ritz cracker. I don't know what the prediction was, but we do know our results. So the results were that it floated, Miss Amy? Is that what our friend said?
Oh, I wish I had stayed on it. The Ritz cracker floated.
Okay, so I'm kind of just gonna put it on top. Can I get this to turn sideways? There we go, it's floating on top. I'm gonna copy my notes here. Nope, let me delete that. Get a new text box.
One thing I'm thinking is some things float right away and will float for a little while, but then after a while of being in the water, they go down, they sink.
I wonder why that happens.
I wonder why.
What do you guys think? How come that Oreo floated for a minute and then suddenly just went completely under, sunk to the bottom? All right, so I've got my Ritz cracker there, and the observation was that it was floating. All right, what's something that's, oh, a granola ball. Oh, I've made granola bars before. I've even made granola balls, and I used peanut butter in my recipe, and I know when I make granola balls, they are really heavy and dense. So I'm gonna draw a granola ball. I don't know if my granola ball is gonna look like yours, Angeline, but I'm gonna actually see if I can actually draw it. Let's do a line. I don't know, this is my drawing skills here. I'm drawing like a not very round ball there. Okay, a granola ball. And we said it sunk to the bottom. Okay. I'm gonna copy it, and I'm gonna copy the wrong thing. Copy it, and I'm gonna come over here and put it at the bottom. See lots of friends entering into the chat. What else do we have there? Oh man, I keep moving all my wrong things, Miss Amy.
That's okay. Let's see. So for something that's sunk, we have
With my picture.
a Triscuit sank. Somebody did a Triscuit, or a graham cracker sank.
Here we go. Okay, Miss Nina, I need a different way to draw this. Okay. My granola ball sank. And I'm just gonna guess that it sank quickly. I don't know if I'm right or not. Angeline, you did the granola ball, but I bet it sunk really quickly. I bet it went right in and right to the bottom. Great job, guys. Okay, all right, I think I'm gonna stop drawing there. And everyone's adding in some nice observations. And if you've got your paper out at home, you can take notes and continue working on it. We are going to, for the extension activity today, you guys are going to choose some other things from your pantry. So it doesn't have to be crackers and cookies. Maybe you want to try with some pasta noodles. Maybe you want to try with a chunk of cheese. Maybe anything. Maybe there's something in your pantry that's really old and you want to get rid of it. Go ahead and use it for this experiment. So our extension activity is to try some more things at home and just to make predictions. Think about whether you think it will sink or whether you think it will float and why. Why do you think that's going to happen? And then you're going to put it in your water. You're going to see if your prediction was correct or if something surprising happened. Sometimes we're surprised by our results. And then it's fun to think about, why did this happen? I wasn't expecting it. All right, Miss Amy, were we going to show them how to get into Flip just in case?
Sure.
Okay. Okay, so I'm hoping that I can click on this correctly. When you guys get the email with the extension activity sent to you today, there's a link. And if we click on that link, is this showing me joining, Miss Amy?
Yep, joining
Okay.
Google.
Okay. All right.
There we are.
You can go right in, and here it takes you right to the day 4 extension activity. If I went back to an old email from day 1 or day 2 and clicked that link, it would take me right into that extension activity. But it takes you right in. It has the directions and a video example that Miss Amy and I made, and it gives you the option to add a response. Okay. And that's where you guys can click and record yourselves doing the experiment, or maybe telling us about what you used and what happened.
And I see a lot of really nice entries in the chat still coming on, and
Oh, great.
some of them look really great. I'm not even going to read them out loud because I want to encourage, if you did one that was really cool that you would like to share with everybody else, to put it on Flipgrid, and that way we can talk about it and share together. Because what it'll do is it'll take a clip of you telling about what you experimented with and put it on there for your classmates to then see, and they can even respond to it some. So.
All right, that's how we get into Flip. I'm going to stop my share real quick. There you go. You guys did a great job today following along with our investigation. I'm excited to see what else you use this evening. Oh, a protein bar floated. That result maybe surprised me. Great job, guys. Okay. All right, friends. We did our investigation. We worked on our abacus. You guys did a great job. And we are ready to say our goodbyes for the day.
Okay, well, another fun lesson. I was a little surprised about the protein bar. It's pretty interesting. Must have a lot of air in there someplace, huh?
Right.
I guess. Buoyancy or displacement, something like that. Okay, so I would like to thank our teachers for this week, Miss Amy and Miss Nina, for a wonderful lesson today. I'm going to go ahead and pause our recording.